So, hello everybody. We are so happy, Harry and I, that we are able to welcome Torill from Norway for several reasons. Torill participated in the network conference we had in on March 23rd, where I met her for the first time. And Torill has been working with the three principles for a number of years and is a partner of North Mine in Norway. That was initially started out by Eric. One of the reasons why I think this is beautiful is that it is, I think, the first time that we have a Scandinavian that is not a Dane talking here on our webinar. And one of our ambitions were and really is that we would like to have more Scandinavians participate in the webinars. And we will try to work towards that in order to strengthen the network feeling that we have and that was cultivated during the network conference. So with this, Torill, I threatened that Harry would be introducing himself. And I stand by that threat here, and I think, Harry, if you would kindly talk a little bit about, I can see we have Helena. I haven't seen Helena before, so if nothing else, then for the sake of Helena, please say a couple of words of what you have been doing, and also I think it's interesting what you have been doing in Sweden here lately. And then would you then please pass on the word to Torill afterwards, please?
Sure. Well, first I'm looking forward, Torill, to hear what you have to say, because obviously I have never heard you before. And one of the things in the London conference that was outstanding was the more interesting people were the people that I hadn't heard before. So the established quo were actually not as interesting to me, in fact, quite boring sometimes, but the new people with their newfound feelings were just, it was a pleasure to listen to people. And so in that sense, I'm excited to hear, the feelings that you have in regards to what you're sharing. And my world is kind of unusual in the sense that I work in heavily addicted and did do a Zoom room through international. We have over 400,000 minutes watched after the show, and it's the same thing with this show. That the after shows are actually quite good. And I'm also in South America in quite a big way right now, and I'm writing a book on addiction and stuff like that, evolution of addiction recovery. But this talking tour that I've just done has kind of showed me that the people out there really, really want to get rid of their suffering, and they want to see it in a spiritual way. And that really has touched me, because everywhere I've gone, there's been a lot of people who've sort of listened to the three principles or haven't listened to the three principles, and they've taken very clearly to the message that the spiritual nature of the principles is a beautiful thing to embrace, and it solves their psychological problems. And to see people rise above what's bothering them has been very, very wonderful. And the other thing, Torill, that I've enjoyed tremendously is working with different people and seeing how they have grown. And with Thomas, it was really a treat. He came in very happy and secure, and he started sharing a beautiful feeling right away. And so we could climb together and start to soar like the eagles together. And that was a very, very beautiful thing. And then watch the people grab the feeling. And they did. And the more they grabbed it, the more they started to sit in it. And so that's what I want to emphasize with what Torill is teaching. It's not just getting the theory of the three principles. It's sitting in the feeling that Sid was talking about. And that's one thing a little unique about me, Torill. Sid was a very close friend of mine. So I know what feeling he was pointing towards. I wasn't always able to understand it or be in it. But now as I look back, I see what he was pointing to. So don't just go for the theory, guys. Theory is nice, but the real essence is not just how we have the human experience. It's how we have a spiritual experience. So that with that short introduction, Christian, I would love to hear what you have to say and so on. The mic's yours. Go ahead and have fun.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm not used to staying this kind of with all new people, so I'm not sure what I'm expecting of myself or what you are expecting of me, but I'm just starting and then we see where we go. I have been working with the principles several years, as Christian was saying. In Norway, we have something we call 3P Academy, where we are following people for almost a year and see how they deepen into this. And that's really beautiful to see how the change manifesting in the people's life. And I think the last year I have really going out of the theory and just living the life. And then really it's in living the life that the principles are, I see them more. And it's not the theory as you're talking about, and it's to live the life and not take life so serious. And I think that's the biggest the English word is lacking. What I benefit most of is to really see that it's not so that I can live in negative feelings as well, that they're not so dangerous that I was thinking before I meet the principles. And that's what you were saying about addiction. It's that we are so afraid of negative feelings that we are doing whatever to coming out of negative feelings, that we are willing to do almost everything. And I see more and more how often we are running away and not going to be able to stand in our own negative feelings or in other person's negative feelings. How often people are going to want to change my feelings, or I want to change them feelings, and just see if we don't do that, everything's just passes. So it's not so scary anymore, and I can play with all the feelings and see that they are guiding me. That the only, for me now, the negative feelings, Bill Pettit is saying it, and I love what he is saying. I love when I get negative feelings because I know there is something more to see. There's a gift in there. There's something to see, and sometimes I'm happy to see it, and other times I don't. But I always know that there is something is misunderstanding. There's some misunderstanding when I feel that someone is hurting me, for example, or I'm afraid of something. So just to be in that curiosity about that is something I don't see, and I can be lucky to see it, and then I go to the next level. And so from I have been a very wired person, that I'm afraid of not almost everything, but a lot of things. So now just to see that this hurting feelings is a gift for me. It's really, really tremendous. So that's something I'm curious about, and I like to talk about.
Perfect.
So just to give us, like, you've hit a really important point. Perhaps one of the greatest weaknesses that people have is the misunderstanding that negative feelings are A-okay, and that if you sit in them, there's a little pot of gold at the end. How did you come to that realization?
I really don't remember, but I have seen again and again that I have learned something from the negative feelings. That I have seen that I have misunderstand people, or I have misunderstand the situation, and it is in the negative feeling I have seen the most. So I can't put a finger on it, but it's just occurred to me.
You just observed it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is the curiosity. When I realized that there was something I misunderstood, I was curious to see, and I was lucky to see sometimes what it was, and then it was clearer to me from time to time when something was coming to me. I can give an example. I had my relationship to my sister. One of my sisters was not bad, but not really good as and I always have seen her as she has done something wrong, and I have done something better. And
normal, you mean?
Yeah. And one time she was telling me about something, and I was really, really mad at her. And at the same time, I saw that she hasn't done anything. She was telling me about another person that I really should be angry with, who did something horrible. But I couldn't be mad at him, but only to my sister. I didn't get mad at her as she was seeing it, but I had that anger inside myself, and I tried to not be angry because it wasn't reasonable. But it still come back, and then I just said to myself, okay, be angry. She wouldn't know, so I won't hurt anybody, but just let the anger get out. And then in a short time, the anger, a day or two or something, the anger was away. And suddenly I saw that all of my life I have seen what my sister has done, and she has, my mother has not been kind to her, and I have seen that she has done something wrong, and I have done the opposite to get my mother's to connect with my mother. So she has been my guide to know what's right or wrong, in the way where I have always looked at her and looking for what she has done that I shouldn't do. And that was so invisible to me. I really didn't knew at all that I was doing that. And when I saw it, it was really, it hit me like a ball. but then it was so nice when I saw it, because no, I don't have to see her that way anymore. I don't need that guidance. And my mother is dead, so I don't need that at all. But innocently, from childhood, I was trying to figure out how I could avoid my mother's anger. And there we have it again. We don't want anybody to be in a bad feeling, because it hurts. It's just we get insecure, and we try to avoid it. So my strategy was to see, okay, my sister is 4 years older, what she was doing, and then I could do the opposite. So innocently we are making these strategies, and we don't know until we know, if we are lucky. So the bad feeling is really something I appreciate. I don't like to be in them as everybody else. I hate them when I'm in it, but I know afterwards it's not always, but often giving me something new perspective for life, and I could see something new.
Recently, I was talking to a gal who had been raped 2.5 years ago, and she felt not whole, broken, and so on. And it was very interesting because she had a lot of great energy. How would that apply in sort of something like that, where she's feeling this negative energy regarding this incident that happened, and now she feels incomplete? Of course, incomplete means she feels separate from the whole of herself. How would that apply in that situation?
I think the way Sydney Banks speaks about forgiveness, that you can forgive the person but don't forgive the act, is really important to see the difference. Because when you forgive the person, you forgive the bitterness in yourself. You forgive that you can let go of the feeling is that's holding you back, but you don't have to forgive the act, because it's many things that's wrong to do, and not something that we have to accept or forgive. But if we can see beyond the form, and see that everyone is doing what's give meaning to them in the moment. So as bad as it can be, it's to take one's life or something, it's give meaning to the person who's done it in the time. But it's not, we don't have to say that it is right.
I think she had no problem saying that.
No.
In that situation, I directed her to her own beauty. And when she felt her own beauty, I like that word you used, forgiveness. She forgave herself when she felt the beauty of herself. And I think sometimes when we're dealing with negative situations, we forget, about touching our own beauty.
Mm.
And if we lose that, we're obviously going to be mired in the negative feeling. But I love that word, forgiveness. If you can forgive, you can roll with the punches.
Mm. And another thing I like what Sid Banks is saying is the past is dead, let the dead rest in peace. So if we can see that we are newborn every second, we don't need to take the past with us. We can, if it's a beautiful past and we want to hang around it, but we are new all the time. And that's another thing that's fascinating me, that when I'm looking back just a month or two or many years, I know I'm not the same person. And I really feel that I'm not the same person I was when I met Christian as the first time. I'm not. Many things has happened, and new thoughts are coming to me, and new seconds are all the time. So when we can see that we just are living in the now, it's easier to let the past go. But if we think we are the same person the whole life, then it's more difficult, I think.
I think that's what Sid meant by living the principles rather than just memorizing them. You can feel the change happening in you, and you're a little bit surprised because all of a sudden you look better than you did before, and you changed in a way that you weren't noticing. And all of a sudden you're lighter and easier, and those past negative experiences are not so stingy or so prickly as they were before.
And I don't mean the same as they were. The negative feelings doesn't mean the same anymore. Before they was telling something about me or something about the circumstances or the people around me, but now it's just telling me that something is misunderstood. So yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about what misunderstanding means? That's a good word. I like that word. Like, what do you mean by misunderstanding?
For me, I think right now it means that I'm seeing the world outside in when I misunderstand, and when I understand, I'm really seeing it that it's inside out. So when I'm feeling someone is hurting me, that's just an indicator that I'm thinking that the word is coming to me, not through me. So and I love being in the misunderstanding as well, and in the illusion, because that's the life. So it's not that I think that I should always see that life is from inside out. That's not living the principles as I see it. It's really, I have a new boyfriend, and I really want to think that he is the reason why I'm so happy. I love to live in that misunderstanding and to enjoy life. But it's really good to remember it when it's negative feelings, so that I don't have to blame other people for my my thinking. So I like the reminder, as I think the negative feeling are just a reminder that I'm seeing it all wrong, and then I can. Sometimes I'm not able to see that for a long time, or maybe I'm not seeing it at all. But other times I'm seeing it, and I can put on the brake and stop and don't have to do a lot of things that I don't really want to do.
I think it's beautiful what you said, that you love your misunderstanding. I think that I think really that is also very much part of living. That is experimenting with the world and getting the feedbacks from the outside in, etc., etc. And it's getting more exploring life like that. Even though that you know that you are doing from the inside out, I think that playing around with life is really. If you do it like that, and we're doing with the understanding that you know what you are doing, I think this is great. I really enjoyed it as well.
And it seems to be an indicator, like what I noticed in the last 24 hours, I have very good space, and then all of a sudden I had a feeling where I was stuck. And Thomas said something to me quite strongly, and it gave me quite a. But the trouble was, it was correct, and I was wrong. And if I didn't have like a heavy feeling with it, I would not have been. I would have been too stubborn to see what it is, and in a way, that heavy, ugly feeling freed me of a lifetime of where I have been stuck, like you mentioned, from way back, and it just freed me of it. Of course, we had such a good time. It was so isolated, but it really hit me hard. And then I could feel, thank you, because I do like to throw away my garbage. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that, Thomas. You were a pain in the ass when you said that. Oh, excuse me. We got personal.
Thank you. Thank you. At the same time, what comes to my mind is like sometimes we can like cover up our feelings out of compassion, but it's some sort of unconscious guilt. We mix things up, and instead of being true and create a greater relationship on a deeper level, actually look at it together, because it's painful to recognize truth sometimes, but it's very rewarding. And so I'm pleased that you accepted my invitation. It's a lot of bullshit, but it's really powerful, and I love you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And when we are knowing that we can always also be tough enough to say something like that. We don't need to hold back, because if it's said with love and you know that it will help the other person, so even if it hurts at the moment. So something that people have said to me that hurt the most is the most valuable thing that I've ever heard. I need to have it the hard way sometimes. So because the ego is really getting in the way. So I'm not as frightened anymore to say something directly to other people as well.
No, but Torill, isn't it so that when it hurts, then you know you are in the outside in, and when you know it's the outside in, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It hurts because you know where it's coming from, and I think that makes a lot of difference to getting hurt. Is really that you know what's going on, because then it doesn't really get personal anymore. You know. It's kind of a mechanism.
Yeah, because when we are taking it personal, it's something we don't see.
Yeah,
that's an indicator. Just
exactly.
So.
Anybody else has something to say?
one of the things that, since no one, in our Swedish conference, there was this very strong woman who had very determined energy and high spirit. And this lady had an insight, and then she wanted to hear about her problem, about the insight. And she was really pushing for it. And I said to her, it just popped out. I said to her, you're doing exactly the wrong thing. I don't think this woman has been told she's ever done the wrong thing in her whole life. And it didn't really come from me. It just popped right out. And then I explained to her, and she had this powerful realization that totally transformed her, so much so that it changed her relationship. She was going to divorce her husband and all this stuff, and she's changed her mind and so on. So sometimes we say something that just pops out, that comes more from the spirit rather than from our mental capacity. And it's good to recognize that, because even though she thanked me for that, I actually didn't do much except it just popped through me. But I was very impressed what you were talking about, Torill. It actually had a very huge impact on her, got it right between the eyes, and the next day she was looking, wow, she looked incredible. And the feelings she was sharing were soft. And so often when we're experiencing negative feelings, it's only a thin layer of the next layer of great beauty. Mm. And I think sometimes people misinterpret that because they're so caught up in the repetitive pattern that they've experienced. The next level is coming. It's unveiling levels of consciousness. And what's coming is this beautiful, beautiful feeling. You will become a better human being through this experience. And to become a better human being is a pretty good thing if it comes with a kit called You Love Yourself a Little Bit More. Mm. And the people I know in this room, they do want to love themselves a little bit more. And there's no way you can avoid the contact sport unless if you're going to play the game, you have to throw your chips in. Mm. It's that type of game. And sometimes when the chips go in, the chips disappear.
Yeah, I think most of the people are going into the principles are thinking that they want to be happier and to remove the negative feelings and that we are thinking that that's what's happened, but as you say, you can't avoid them, but you live better with them, and that's the really big gift, I think, and to see the humanity in everybody, and to see that we are the same, and we struggle with all the same. It's just a different content. So we are the same, and that's really it's calm me down when I see that I'm not different from anybody else.
What I think has really been a beautiful experience for me with regards to the three principles would be that all the previous techniques, all the previous approaches to handling negative feelings had been really strategies in order to how do I cope with this in this situation, how do I cope with this in this situation. And I think that the universal solution to that, which has been presented with the three principles, is really to accept the negative feelings and to be comfortable with them and use them, as you say, as a pointer which really can help you to raise your consciousness level of consciousness. And as soon as you do that, the negative feelings disappear. And I think I look at negative feelings a little bit like business problems, if he does. And I was very taken by a guy at Tikon last year who told me that when he went out into businesses and he was hired in order to help them solve a problem, he never talked about the problem. What he did was he raised the consciousness of the people that were involved in the problem solution, and when he had raised their consciousness, the problem looked absolutely different. So that did the job for him, and I think that's pretty much the same with the negative feelings, that it points you to a place, and when you get to be aware of that, your consciousness starts to rise, and when it starts to rise, the negative feelings disappear by themselves because the source is not there anymore.
And when you are in the negative feelings, the life look so different. And what does it look real? It's real. And just to know that it looks real, but it's not real, as it's just the way it looks. And when you have a better feeling, the life looks real as well. So you can't get to a point where life doesn't look real. It is, but it's still, it's have to, it's what thought you have that's give you the flavor of what the reality looks like. So in 1 second, my life can seem not that it's not worth living, and in the next day it's the most beautiful life I ever have experienced, and both it's real. So and to see that and to experience that gives me the compassion for people who seeing their life not beautiful, and but just also know that can change in a second.
Yeah.
You bring a good point. You know, the realness of the experience the person is having. You know, we talk about the native people and the trauma that they've experienced. It's not really, you can just tell them about thought and the theory of life, and they're going to drop all their trauma. This is something that is really caught them in a way that forces you to sit with them rather than tell them what to do. And when you sit with a person, I know with you, Suzanne, when we had a little session, it wasn't like the Indians, of course, but we sat in it, and I could feel the fact that we were sitting in it was the way to release it in a way. Did you sense that when we talked?
That's one of the things that I was just thinking about, because what happens to me sometimes when I have bad feelings is that I start to analyze. Can you hear me?
Hard.
Is it better now? Okay, what happens to me when I have bad feelings is that I try to analyze them, and try to understand them, and try to put them in a context with the 3 principles, and it most of the times just makes it worse.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, and so what I was just thinking about when you guys were talking is that I think what's better for me is to keep quiet, to keep quiet, and that way find the peace inside, or find the answer, or find get back to the nice feeling. I think that works better for me than to start having all these things about what I remember being said in the three principles and all the videos I see. Sometimes it just helps a lot more just to put my hand on my chest and then just to be quiet, just like we did. I think that works. Because then new thoughts come up or new feelings come up, and that's just is more quiet and nice for me to try that way instead of thinking lots of thoughts that just make my headache even worse.
When you say the quiet, one of the realizations I had at the conference was that's what mind is. So you go back to universal mind when you experience that quiet. And of course, that's where all the healing is. And so actually, I personally think that's unbelievably wise, what you said. And I do believe too many people rely upon the theory of the three principles when they're in trouble, and it keeps them into trouble, as you just said as well. Pretty wise, Suzanne, pretty wise. It's so strange, isn't it, that we have to go to the silence for healing, when everything else says we should go to the noise or to what we've learned. It's unimaginable that would be the answer, that it's the only answer.
I think that really is very true. I think that one of the greatest challenges for human beings is really to be comfortable with silence. And especially also when you are sitting in gatherings like this, and all of a sudden there is a silence, and I can feel my impatience starting to bubble from the inside. What am I going to do now, and what are everybody thinking, etc. And yet, if you are capable of standing, of remaining in this silence, you don't have to think about what to say next, because it will come out automatically when it has to come.
So simple. We just do too much, guys. We just do too much.
Yeah.
If we did a little less, it would be easier. And I mean up here. And the Danish word for cozy, it must have come from pure truth, hygge. But somehow people got it meant outside. It's a Norwegian word, by the way, or originated in Sweden, in Norway, and then the Danes took to that word. But I bet any money the person who brought it over really understood about the inside-out feeling of hygge, not the outside-in feeling of hygge. The poker face. You could feel it when you sit with a cup of coffee and the fire's there. You have a cigar in your mouth, and there's just this little talk, and you're just sitting in it. And it's heaven. especially if Christian makes the cup of coffee. He makes a really good cup of coffee. It's a standard joke of ours. Excuse me.
Yeah. Well, and it is a typical outside-in joke.
So, Suzanne, after you sit in that feeling, what do you notice follows it?
Trying to find the word. It's like, I'm not sure it's the right word, but it's like a need or longing for more peace, for more of that quietness. I'm noticing when I'm with other people that I don't have that much to say like I used to. I used to be talking about all kinds of problems, and I just doesn't interest me anymore. And I'm like a little bit in a limbo, because how are you together with other people if you don't have to be concerned or worry? Or so I'm trying to find that peace inside when I'm with other, instead of thinking about what to say next about my own life. Because usually that's how I think we talk. That's one person talk about their life, and then you're sitting waiting or thinking about how does that work in my life, and then you have a dialogue about the illusion. And I'm just getting a little tired of that, and I'm not really sure what to do then. So I try to experiment a little bit about what happens if I look inside and see if I can find the peace, and then I don't know what happens. But I think that's what I like about the three principles. It's so interesting to see what opens up, what's next, what's the next insight, what's the next word being said, what's the next thing coming from the relation or from me. I think there's so much hope for all of us in this, and I like that a lot. Does it make sense? I'm
Totally.
not really sure.
Yeah.
And what happens, just to give you a little bit what will be coming to you, is that as you keep to that quiet, then genius thoughts pop into your head. These thoughts that come from, of course, universal mind, or whatever you want to call it. And they pour through you, and they just make so much sense that not only does it cut through the nonsense, what you would think about for 2 weeks, you solve in 3 seconds, because it just is that type of thought. And it's the same way in relating to people. Insights come how to talk to people, because in reality, it's a counseling session. You're just waiting until you have something precious to say. And it comes, I promise you, it comes more and more and more. You just keep sitting in the silence of what you're talking about, living the way you are. And it just gets, you get content being Suzanne, and then God or spirit, I call it spirit, or mind, you guys call it mind, it just gives you the gift. And you go, oh, popped out again, eh? Popped out again. And then all of a sudden the conversation takes off. Because people want to have a beautiful conversation with you. But you're right, they have habits. And the genius pops through, and it's called love, of course. It's love pops through, and they feel it. And the conversation takes off. And then people start to notice that your beauty is shining through. And they like it. You become a better human being. Which is a beautiful thing to feel about oneself.
I'm the one to blink first. Yeah. So what I would say is I would just like to revert a little bit to the forgiveness thing that we started out with, and I think the forgiveness thing has cannot be emphasized sufficiently for several reasons. First of all, the forgiveness releases the person from the experience and from the burden of the experience, and that's the one part. But I think that really, to me, is one of the most important part of the forgiveness is really that once you forgive, you are no longer a victim of the incident, or you're no longer a victim of the experience of the incident. I think there's a difference. You can be the victim of an act, but with the forgiveness, you don't necessarily have to be a witness of the experience of the act. And I think that's really the big difference. That forgiveness is really the way out of a victim situation, and of course, it's not a question of forgiving the person, but the question of forgiving yourself for having created the experience of the incident. So I think that's very important, because that really is a key to get on with your life after having an incident which is not so pleasant.
And when Sid talked about forgiving, he always emphasized forgetting is the measure for forgiving. If you're thinking about it, obviously you haven't forgiven. You know, you've forgiven on the outside in, but haven't felt it inside. And this forgiveness is a big feeling, because as I look in my world, I see change happening through forgiveness that I haven't noticed. And it's my favorite type of change, is change that I haven't noticed, and I'm just different, because it's effortless. So the spirit changes us effortlessly. And I think we're just distracted not to see it, because if we saw it, we'd get in the way of it. And so it takes your little mind and says, look here. And you go, oh. And then over here it goes, like the doctor comes and does the operation and fixes you all up. Then you go, oh, that was something. Then you look over your shoulder and you know, 2 months have happened since you thought about that thing. And when you think about it, it hasn't got much of a fiber to it. it's so long ago that it becomes more like a ghost rather than a something to deal with. So I think problems and negative situations are easy to misinterpret in a spiritual sense, because God or Spirit is designed it so, in a way, to distract us so that we can not get in the way of the good stuff. And if you look at it like that, then you see that everything is a perfect design. There are no mistakes, guys. Not one. They're all perfect. Only you think something is wrong. It's crazy, isn't it? There's no mistakes. It's perfectly designed. Your sicknesses, your mismarriages, your anger, it's all there. And you don't get into aggravation if you see it. That's actually very good for you. You suggested that, Torill, that with what Bill Pettit said, that was, he actually enjoys that because it's so good. He learned so much from it. And you could see from that perspective, pretty cool.
Mm.
And what perfect design means is that handles your psychological problems too, if you understand what I presented. The psychological side of the principles are not there to fix your problems. They're there to show you that everything is perfectly designed. And if you can go into that state of contentment with that, life gets easier. I'm not saying I don't get hit. Oh, wow, that looks pretty good. Let's try that one again. Yeah, I don't get hit, but it's perfectly designed, so I'm not so irritated by it. And it's your irritation with the situation that's causing the stress. And as everybody knows, stress then releases your bad habits, and bad habits start to recur, and you start to feel like that's normal. Then someone like Torill comes in, and she shows them, oh, you don't have to be a victim to that. She's really saying it's perfectly designed. Everything is dead on.
We have just misunderstood this.
Very beautiful said. Wow, click rated. Wonderful, Torill. Yeah. Perfect. Just misunderstanding. It's a wonderful word, isn't it? Misunderstanding. I've been hearing that word a little more. I misunderstand. Perfect.
And it's so innocently.
Yeah.
We all do all the time. And when we are kids or we have kids, we are so compassionate to that understanding that it's okay, that it's sometimes really sweet that we are misunderstanding. But when we are growing up, we are making it wrong to misunderstand, but it just is, and it's innocently. So we can't do anything about it other to learn from the misunderstanding and to forgive ourselves and to forgive others.
That's a good combination. Misunderstanding innocently. Thomas said that too. He likes that word, innocent. And that's, Sid always talked about that. We're innocent. Everybody who's doing something to you is innocent. You know, it's so much nicer than they're a pain in the ass. Excuse the expression.
And in order to something to be wrong, we have to make a thought about what's right or wrong. And that's just also a thought. So something could be right in my opinion and wrong in your opinion. So that's just the thought. And from another level, it's just seeing different.
Mm-hmm.
And see that it's all made up. We can play more. That I really like that. In my previous life, I was so addicted to do right and not wrong, and to have control. That was my safety net, I thought. But now I can see that mine is my safety net. So I can just play like a child, and the mind is my parents, and I can go home and cry and get all the comfort. So I can really play more in life when I don't have all the concept of what's right or wrong. It just is.
And you feel younger.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really playing and feel young. and now my boyfriend and I are calling we are saying that my son is 23, but we call him the parents because we are so so childish and just playing, and he is the adult one, so the role has shifted, and that's fun.
Torill, that's nice. Have you experienced an increase in your creativity as well as part of that playfulness?
Yeah, I think I always has been creative. But I think I'm braver to follow my foolishness than I was before. I'm not so concerned about what other people are thinking about me. So I can just do stupid things and laugh about it afterwards, and that's really freeing.
That's freedom, eh?
Yeah, really freedom.
I can be anything. I love it.
Yeah, it's just a life, and soon we are dead, and then we don't know what's happened. So why don't we play? Why do we take? Why do we take life so serious? I have taken my first 45 years really serious, but after I knew the principles, I have been playing more and more, and can see. And for 3.5 years ago, I lost my husband. He died, and it was really hard, but in the same time it was showing me that life, I don't know when life is over, so why don't play and have fun and enjoy? Maybe I'm dead tomorrow, so why wait? So yeah, he really shows me the beauty of life by living it. It is, yeah.
Beautiful. Is this a relevant note to say thank you very much for attending, and
beautiful feelings, Torill.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, it is.
And you too, Suzanne. Beautiful feelings.
So Torill, thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much for showing up.
Thank you for the willingness to have me.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure. We'll be talking a little bit about the networking at a later date. Okay, great. Good, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye.
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 See you later, Thomas. Oh, sorry. It's a private joke. Okay. That was beautiful, Suzanne, what you shared. Honestly, really, so perfectly dead on. 100%. That's the spiritual that I've been talking. That spiritual's a word. You epitomized it, pinned it down perfectly.
But you will see, Harry, you will see Suzanne on Monday.
Oh,
that's,
okay.
That's what I was
I'll compliment you then. cancel that
Okay.
out, because I'm going to say the same thing on Monday.
Okay.
Monday, what's that?
See you.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm in Denmark tomorrow for the last stage of my trip. I can't believe that it's almost over. It's not over, but it seems so strange. I've been having so much fun that, I don't want to go home, but I'm going to have to. So, yeah.
What
So,
time is it on Monday, Christian? What time is it on Monday?
Skal vi ikke have 6? Eller hvad?
Well, I'll give. I don't remember.
about 7, Christian?
No, it was earlier than that. It was
Earlier, because I have about a 5-hour drive, so
Yeah,
I probably will roll in about 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm just guessing, but
but I think we talked
You
about.
shouldn't do that because of the traffic. Where do you come from?
I'm coming from Vi's place,
Which is where?
above where Chris is.
But are you?
You should go earlier.
Yeah.
Because you'll be stuck. Yeah, listen, you'll be stuck with the traffic.
Oh yeah, I've forbidden that traffic actually. Well, I'll do my best, for sure. I want to get there. It's just
getting up in the morning, isn't it?
yeah, that type of stuff. And then I'm going to Thisted on the beach. I got a place for 3 nights and 2 days on the beach in this hot weather. So I think that will be a good break for me just to. And I'm going to take a swim in the ocean. Is it an ocean? What is it? A North Sea or an ocean, or what is it?
No, it's Kattegat. It's not. No, it's not an ocean. It's one of the water between Denmark and Sweden.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to take a swim and stuff like that.
You can do it. Well, we don't have any sharks, so you can do that.
Okay. That's
You can go swimming with me Tuesday morning. Swimming in the morning.
Okay.
I'll take you to our place.
Okay, if I can get up, I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm having a great time.
See you on Monday.
Yeah. See you on Monday, guys.
Bye.
Good session.